If you're not playing with your routing as you're sound designing, you're missing out on a ton of creative potential. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly why and show you how to get more creative than ever before possible with the routing options in Blockchain Ultra. When you think about sound designing, you're probably used to thinking in a very linear way. You load one plugin, then the next after it, and the next after that, and this is a very linear signal flow. And we call this working in series. And maybe if you're a bit more advanced, you start playing with parallel processing. This would be like using sends into an aux track with a separate processing chain on it and experimenting with blending that in with the original. We would call this working in parallel, and it can definitely produce some cool results. The only problem is it can take a lot of clicks to set this up in your DAW, not to mention having to load potentially duplicates of all these processors, which can become a burden on your CPU. And having that messy workflow sometimes just deters you from even experimenting with it, even if it could produce a really cool result. But what if you could do all of this and even more with just one click directly on your track? Like, what if you could make any plugin mid-side or multiband or stereo independent, and then still being able to turn it into a parallel processing chain without ever leaving that track? I'm sure you can already imagine the insane creative possibilities this opens up for you as you're exploring new sounds. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in this video with Blockchain Ultra. Blockchain Ultra is a revolutionary multi-effects ecosystem built for producers, featuring 87 groundbreaking creative effects in one easy-to-use tool. And I'm going to break down two of my favorite features to take Blockchain Ultra to the next level, opening up tons of creative sonic possibilities. And those are the creative routing options and the instant parallel processing slider for the entire chain. So let me explain what these controls do and how it works. And then we'll get into some cool tricks you can use, like mid-side processing, doing stereo independent chains, or multibanding everything. So down here, we have these creative routing buttons. And as we click on them, you'll notice we see an overlay showing us what the internal routing of the rack is. So the first mode by default is a standard series processing chain. It's going to go like reading a book, top left to bottom right. And this is kind of like your normal plugin chain. If you were to load these plugins individually in your DAW, this is the linear series type processing that you would expect. A lot of times, this is the mode you would stay in if you want a more standard routing. And in this mode, the mix control acts as a full chain parallel mix slider. So imagine you build a complex chain, and then you want to hear what it sounds like if you just blended in a little bit of the dry signal. In most DAWs, this would require setting up a duplicate track or an aux track, and this could get messy, especially if you're wanting to use this trick a lot in a session. This slider in Blockchain just makes it easier and gives you an instant way to test parallel processing chains. Sometimes I try blending in a little of the dry signal and I'm surprised at how cool it sounds. It's probably something I wouldn't have tried before because it would have taken so many clicks to set up, but having it right here just opens up for a lot of experimentation. But here's something really cool I want to show you. Imagine if you could just flip the order of your plugins. In Blockchain, you can do that with this reverse series button. Now the routing is going from the bottom right up to the top left. And depending on what your chain is, it can sometimes lead to really cool results. Like, take a listen to this one. I've got it on a Rhodes track. So we're doing some really cool stuff here with Blockchain Ultra. We have the grain engine, this beautiful plate, we're doing some delays, and then we're using the auto filter to create that kind of swelling effect. Now that's in the normal series mode, but what if we were to put it in series reverse? So we're getting a completely different sound because we're doing the filtering first. And you can hear the grains kind of ringing out and fading out over time more, rather than clamping down right away with the auto filter. Now, both are cool effects. I could see both of them being very cool in a track. It just depends on what you want. but having the ability to just quickly check the routing either way can sometimes lead to unexpected things like that. Maybe I decide to go in this direction. So you can hear the difference there. When we have the reverse series, we get those grains right away, which might be a really cool effect. So those are the series modes, and those are pretty standard. They're easy to imagine. But let's get into the parallel modes. So in blockchain, we have two types of parallel options. With this first parallel option, we have the top row and the bottom row running in parallel. So each of these are getting a dry input from the plugin, and then they're running in series on the top row and in series on the bottom row. So we also have this second parallel option. And in this routing mode, we have 4 different parallel chains running all at the same time, from top to bottom. So let me just start a blank chain and show you some of the possibilities here. Imagine if we wanted to load up, say, half speed and maybe a verb of some type, maybe this shimmer verb. Since these are running in parallel, we're going to get a really cool blended effect. So it's like we're hearing the ghost of the original layer through the shimmer verb, but then we're also hearing a slowed down half speed at the same time in parallel. And this is just with loading 2 modules. You can imagine what the possibilities are when you start building these parallel chains. Like, one of my favorite things to do is mid-side any type of processing. You can make any processor a mid-side processor in Blockchain Ultra. All you have to do is load mid-side in this parallel mode, turn down the sides on the top, turn down the mid on the bottom, and now you can apply processing just to the mids or sides. Like, imagine if we wanted to half speed just the side information, just the stereo information on this sample. We can do that by loading half speed right here. So you can hear we're just slowing down the sides, not the mids. And that just creates even more possibilities with all of these effects. You can make any processor a mid-side processor. So you can just imagine the possibilities there. And there's also a chain starter preset called mid-side starter. So you don't even have to worry about setting this up each time. You can just pull that preset up and instantly you're ready to start building a mid-side chain. I'll quickly share a couple things I discovered you can do with this. Imagine if you wanted to bring out the highs just in the sides, but you wanted to leave the mids alone. Like, you wanted to excite a sound, but you didn't want to make everything brighter. You just wanted to make it brighter on the sides, maybe so that it doesn't compete with a vocal or something in the middle. All we got to do is load Air Fusion just on the sides like this, and now we can just excite the highs on the sides. So it creates this really cool effect where it feels brighter, but also wider. Or here's another cool thing you can do. Let's say you got a drum loop and you just want to apply some type of crazy saturation on the middle of it, but you want to leave the sides alone. We can do that by loading up a saturator just on the mids. Maybe we'll load up a wave shaper. So it feels like we're just applying that wave shaping to the kick and snare and the parts of the signal that we want to, while we're leaving all the percussion and hi-hats alone, because those are primarily in the sides. So that's all with this first parallel option, but we also have the second parallel option. And let me show you this multiband starter preset, because this lets us do multiband on anything. So on this drum loop, again, let's say we wanted to clip just the sub lows. We could pull up that wave shaper down here, and now we're going to apply this wave shaping only to the sub lows. And then what if we wanted to apply some type of reverb just to the high mids? Maybe we want to add some widening to the top end just to spread out the hi-hats and cymbals a bit. So you can just imagine how creative you can get by loading up processing just on specific bands. There's so much you can explore and create with these different routing options. And of course, you can always blend in the entire chain in parallel. And here we're parallel processing an already parallel processed chain. So I'm sure you're imagining a ton of possibilities of what you can do with this. So Blockchain Ultra is an incredibly deep tool that gives you intuitive ways to explore different routings and parallel processing chains. And I found this can open up a ton of creative possibilities that I would never have explored if I was just doing everything in the DAW. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a comment, give it a like, and subscribe for more tutorials like this. And as always, happy music making.